Yo! So this evening I'd like to review Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. So to give you a brief synopsis, this is the story of Guy Montag, who is a fireman. Now there's no year actually indicated within the novel as to when this story takes place, but in this world firemen don't put out fires, they actually set fires. They set fires in the houses of people who have been discovered to own books, as books have been completely outlawed. Guy never questions his line of work up until he meets Clarice, his 20-year-old neighbour. She brings light to the fact that things haven't always been like this. Firemen didn't always set fires. And she brings awareness to the history of books and the history of firemen. After this, Guy begins to question everything. He presents his thoughts to his wife, Mildred, who completely dismisses him, as she's more into watching TV than paying attention to what's really happening in the world. Curiosity finally gets the better of Guy, and he begins to take matters into his own hands. If you go into this novel looking for an epic dystopian tale, I think you'll come out of it unsatisfied. I think to enjoy this novel you have to read in between the lines and really search for the deeper meaning, as it presents a lot of different ideas and themes, but it doesn't explore it and it doesn't fully flesh out its ideas. To me, this was a story of loneliness and self-discovery. It did not come off as a commentary on censorship. And after reading it, I did a bit of research and I discovered that Ray Bradbury never intended for it to be a commentary on censorship. He intended the story to be about how TV is bad for people and how TV kind of rots your brain and TV makes people pay less attention to what's going on in the world. And I found that quite shocking because the only way the idea of that was conveyed was through Guy's wife, Mildred, who is pretty much a background character. You don't really hear from her much. They don't have a great relationship. They're more so like, they're not really husband and wife, they're more so like flatmates. And Guy brings up that he doesn't really love his wife. She is obsessed with television. You get the sense that when you go into their house, they live in one of these houses where the TV is just permanently on. She has no time for the real world. She is blissfully ignorant. Like I said, she completely dismisses Guy when he comes up with the idea of like, why don't we get a book and read it and see what they're trying to hide from us. She's completely content with her life. The idea of TV being bad for you or TV making you ignorant, that was the only way it was conveyed, was through her, and it was so brief. So I'm surprised that that was his main message. You're not saying that all books really have to have deep, meaningful messages. You take whatever you get from them, and no two people are going to have the same reading experience, but I was pretty surprised by that because I felt like he could have explored it more, or at least emphasized it a bit more. There are a lot of themes brought up in this that are mentioned and then never touched again, and I would have liked certain things to have been explored more because it really felt to me like blink and you'll miss it. There felt like there was a lot going on but not enough time to get it all out. The idea of burning religious texts was also brought up, and I thought that this would stay away from anything like that, but it mentioned briefly that Bibles are burned as well. That caught my attention and I thought that might be brought up later on, but it never was. Also, we never find out as to why books are burned. I got the feeling that it was to make everyone equal, but also to make everyone ignorant and not question things, because for the most part the majority of the population are illiterate, and only a handful of people remember a time when things weren't this way, when books were important, and there's a handful of people who still find that books are sacred and they memorize the books in order to be able to regurgitate it to the future generations. But you never find out as to why this happened in the first place, really. You have a few ideas that it's just the government cracking down on people and to keep people down and keep them in their place, but this book isn't really about that. I feel like this is an important book to read if you're someone who's interested in dystopian fiction, if you're someone who never got around to reading this because it wasn't in your school curriculum. Yeah, you should definitely give it a go. I'm glad I read it finally. Did I enjoy it? Not as much as I thought I would, because I went into it with a lot of expectations, but I did know that I already didn't like Ray Bradbury's writing style, as I'd previously read some of his work. I read Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I didn't enjoy that at all. And again, I found that his writing style didn't really agree with me this time. He's a bit too succinct with his writing, like it goes by a bit too quick, but I am happy to have read it, and I definitely would recommend it to someone who has been curious about it. It's very short, it wouldn't take you very long to read, so if you're curious about it, you should definitely check it out. So that has been my review on Fahrenheit 451. Let me know if you've read this, if you're planning to read this, if you've enjoyed it or not. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.